I came across this Shareably article titled "The One Thing Each U.S. State is Worst At," and we're going to go through it in real time together, starting with Alabama, which has the most child smokers. We'll see if the federal government raising the age to buy tobacco to 21 has any impact there. Next up is Alaska, which has the highest chlamydia rate. Bet you didn't know that? Well, you do now. Arizonans need to work on their teeth because they are the worst at going to the dentist, with about 60% of people not getting regular dental exams. And of course, this is according to Shareably, who is the source of this article. Arkansas has the fewest advanced degrees per capita at only 6.1%, but at the price of education nowadays, can you really blame them? California has the most polluted cities, and if you spend some time in LA, you won't argue with that. Colorado has the greatest cocaine use, which I find surprising. I wouldn't think that'd pair well with skiing and snowboarding. Connecticut has the most unequal incomes, and that's due to its proximity to New York City. Very wealthy people want to live near the city, not necessarily in it. Delaware has the least regular exercise, maybe that's why Joe fell off that bike. Florida has the most recreational boat accidents, and with all the Florida man memes, this is what they're recognized for. They say Georgia has the least integrity, writing, "Politicians in Georgia are the least ethical, with about 658 state workers accepting gratuities during a 2-year period." And I'm not sure it's fair to extrapolate that out and say that Georgia in general has the least integrity. Hawaii has the highest homelessness rate, which if you're going to be homeless, that's not the worst place to do it. Idaho has the worst drivers, which I've never heard anyone mention Idaho in that context. Usually people talk about the aggressive drivers of New York or Boston, or the slow drivers in the South. Illinois, get this, has the most rail accidents, and we've seen the kind of catastrophic damage that can come from a train wreck. Indiana has the most meth incidents, and I don't know which state I expected to win this award, but it wasn't Indiana, although I have heard bad things about the city of Gary. Iowa has the highest racial disparity in marijuana arrests. Here's a map showing in which states marijuana is legal and illegal. As for Iowa, it's legal for medical use only. Kansas, again, according to Shareably, has the ugliest scenery, and yet this picture looks pretty beautiful to me. I'm sure some people from Kansas would take issue to this nomination. Kentucky is the worst place to be an animal, and apparently they need to enact some new animal protection laws over in Kentucky. Louisiana has the highest murder rate. Can't we just celebrate Mardi Gras in peace? I looked it up, and number 2 is actually Maine. And look who's next on the list. It's Maine, who has the fewest helicopters. They are very fortunate to have Louisiana beating them out on that last stat. Next up is Maryland, which is the worst at incarcerating the elderly. And their stat to support that is just 7.5% of the state's inmates are over the age of 50, and that's about half the rate nationwide. Maybe the elderly just aren't committing crimes over in Maryland. Massachusetts is the worst at happy hour, and the reason for that is they were the first state to ban it. If you're wondering why they banned it, it's because there were too many fatal drunk driving accidents, so they put an end to these cheap drinks. Michigan has the worst roads, as they've spent the least per capita on fixing them. However, if you ask anyone from any state, they're pretty much all going to tell you their state has the worst roads. Minnesota has the most tornadoes, and that changes year to year who has the most, but one time Minnesota had 145 in 1 year. Mississippi has the shortest life expectancy at 75 years. Mississippi and Delaware should get together and formulate a statewide exercise program. Missouri has the worst puppy mills, and puppy mills are bad everywhere, but apparently they're the worst in Missouri. Montana has the most traffic fatalities per capita, and I'm not sure why they used this photo. That thing hasn't seen action since the 70s. Nebraska has the least furniture manufacturing. Shareably, what even is that fact? I'm not sure if that even qualifies as a bad thing or a good thing. That's just not the industry there. Nevada has the highest divorce rate, and in the US nationally, the divorce rate is about 50%, so it's pretty bad over in Nevada. I looked into this further, and indeed, Nevada leads the pack at 4.2 divorces per 1,000 women aged 15 and over, followed by Oklahoma and then Wyoming. New Hampshire has the fewest inland waterways, but they're on the East Coast, and so they have access to the Atlantic Ocean, so no shortage of water there. New Jersey Jersey coming in hot with the worst speeding tickets. So if you're going through the Garden State, tap those brakes. New Mexico has the most accidental deaths, so OSHA is going to be paying a visit over there. New York, get this, is the worst place to be a taxpayer with the highest average state and local taxes. Indeed, USA Today reported back in March that New Yorkers are the #1 movers to Florida. Just leave your tax policy behind. North Carolina is the worst state for education, citing teacher-to-student ratio and per capita spending. North Dakota is the least visited state, and the sign in the picture reads, "Buffalo are dangerous, view from a distance," so maybe that's why. Ohio has the worst water, according to the Natural Resources Defense Council, which is a nonprofit dedicated to protecting the environment. Oklahoma has the lowest produce consumption, and to anyone from Oklahoma watching, I have to ask, what's the problem with produce? Worse than not eating produce, Oregon has the most prescription painkiller abusers. Pennsylvania has the worst bridges, and I looked it up. They have about 22,600 bridges, and over 3,000 of them are considered structurally deficient, although that number has been decreasing over the years. Rhode Island has the highest teacher absenteeism, and as a kid, I don't think anyone complained when a substitute teacher would come in. It basically meant you get to watch a movie that day. South Carolina has the most violent crime, another surpriser. I mean, you have beautiful weather and beautiful beaches. Can't everyone just chill out? We were just talking about the teachers in Rhode Island not showing up. Well, in South Dakota, they aren't getting paid. They have the lowest paid teachers. They list Tennessee as the most dangerous, even though South Carolina had the most violent crime. What, are the animals attacking people in Tennessee? Texas has the fewest high school graduates per capita, and I don't know if that says more about the students or the public education system. Utah, on the other hand, is the nerdiest state. I looked a little more into that claim, and it's because they search the most for topics like Star Wars, Star Trek, Dungeons and Dragons, live-action role-playing, and Harry Potter. Vermont has the most illicit drug use, and gonna be honest, not surprised by that one. Virginia has the lowest oil production per capita. And if you're wondering, Texas was in first place, producing 42.4% of US crude oil. Washington is the worst at loving Justin Bieber. Isn't this supposed to be bad facts? That's completely subjective. Don't know why they threw that in there. West Virginia has the fewest college graduates per capita, and then Wyoming has the highest suicide rate. Now contrast that with Nebraska, who they list as having the least furniture manufacturing. This list is really all over the place. Don't shoot the messenger though. I just wanted to take a look at this article in real time and bring you along with me. I'll leave a link to it down below in the description. Hopefully you learned something interesting about some state. If you did, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel where I cover the best stories and news to keep you informed and give you interesting things to talk about. My name's Ryan. This is News Rye. I'll see you in the next one.